In the 12th chapter of St. Luke's Gospel, we see our Lord expound upon the dynamics of money and riches vis-a-vis Christian salvation and human happiness. And it's often said that money is the root of all evil. And be that as it may, this is far from the ultimate message that our Lord reveals in today's gospel. Our Lord is pointing to something much more profound than simply money should not be your God. Virtually everyone believes that. No one really thinks that money is the ultimate good, because money is something that is used to achieve other goods, other things, other products, services, etc. And so our Lord in today's gospel is doing something much more than highlighting what we all know, namely that money cannot make one happy. He's pointing to something much more profound. He's pointing to something that it lies at the heart of what we can call the realism of the Christian life. And so this is why when our Lord tells the parable of the rich man whose land produced a bountiful harvest, and he says, "What shall I do? For I have no space to store my harvest." And he says, "I know what I shall do. I shall tear down my barns and build larger ones, and there I shall store all my grain and other goods. And I shall say to myself, now as for you, you have so many good things stored up for many years. Rest, eat, drink, and be merry." So we see here, even in this foolish person, this person who's living and ordering his whole life around his possessions, he doesn't think that his goods, that his resources, that his financial security is the end, but rather what is he really interested in? It's in living for many years in a life, a pace of rest, of good eating, drinking, and merriment and happiness. He knows, this foolish man, even he knows that money and resources can't make one happy. They are ordered to other things. And the other things for him are his own comfort, his own sustenance, and his own enjoyment. And then Jesus continues the parable in this paragraph and says, God says to him, "You fool, this night your life will be demanded of you. And the things you have prepared, to whom will they belong? Thus will it be for all who store up treasures for themselves, but are not rich in what matters to God." Our God says to this man in this parable, "You fool." And he asks the man, "To whom will these things belong?" You who have put your value and your identity in these things rather than in the things of God. This gospel thus points us towards the ultimate foundational truth and principle of the Christian life. And that truth and principle of the Christian life is this, that the truth of the Christian life is a truth. It's a real truth. It's a truth and a spirituality and a living that is founded in reality. The gospel message of Jesus, what he teaches, is not simply a list of rules and precepts or even beatitudes that are extrinsically offered or extended or even imposed upon us, but the gospel of Jesus, the truth of the moral life that Jesus gives us, the truth of life united to Jesus himself, is based upon the reality of human life. And that reality means that sin is not broken rules and broken commandments. It's disorder that frustrates and harms the human person, frustrating the human attempt, the human journey, the human quest for happiness. And so the reason why Jesus warns us against living for, relying upon money and those things that money can communicate is not because money's evil. It's because money and the things of this world, the transitory passing things, cannot, of their very nature, give the type of happiness for which we yearn, the type of happiness that we seek, that we search for. That's the reason why these things are ultimately not at the heart of Christian existence, and why the gospel again and again and again warns us against making these things at the heart of the Christian life. Practically speaking, thus, it's very important to not let the contingent goods of this world dominate us in two extremes. Certainly living for money, fame, success, possessions, those types of things we know, most people know, can't give happiness. And no Christian would believe that they could. No Christian would consecrate themselves to the pursuit of such things. However, on the other side, it is also worrisome when we see Christians who almost in reverse try to define themselves in opposition to money or possessions. As if a married man, a married woman, and families should be characterized by poverty and lack of possessions, and by an over-attachment to simplicity. This is very important. Lay persons called to live in the world for Jesus and to sanctify the world, they are not called to poverty. And they should not be chagrined by financial success. They shouldn't live for financial success, but financial success and security is not something that is to be chagrined or rejected. But rather the Christian, the holy person, the follower of Jesus, clings to our Lord wholeheartedly and completely, and everything else that is not Jesus is regarded in just and due and appropriate and well-ordered, reasonable proportion. So that means the saint who lives for Jesus, if they have a lot of money, wonderful, because I have Jesus and I will use the resources I have to provide for my family and to provide for the church and to live this life for Jesus. If something happens and all my money disappears, the saint says, that's okay. I have Jesus and I will work with now the meager possessions that I have for Jesus. Jesus and union with him, that is the ultimate focus of the Christian. And so the Christian is not looking at material principles, either in excess or in defect, to determine how they should follow Christ. They follow Christ, and all of the other things are regarded within the context and within the project of the following of Jesus. And that's why our Lord at the end of the gospel concludes by saying, "You fool, this night your life will be demanded of you, and the things you have prepared, to whom will they belong? Thus will it be for all who store up treasures for themselves, but are not rich in what matters to God." The happy person, the perfected, fulfilled person, the saintly person is full of the riches of God. And who is the richness of God? Jesus himself. And so today, as we reflect upon the needs and contingencies that everyone experiences, particularly those in the lay state, we don't chagrin the needs and requirements of home, of body, of health, of finances, but we don't live for them. We live for Jesus, the richness of God, the one who is the ultimate prize, the one who specifies the Christian life. And therefore, whether we have much, whether we have little, we have Jesus. And for the Christian, that is the ultimate defining and saving reality of our life and existence.